Welcome into this Wednesday edition of Pushing the Pile, brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. This is a very special edition, as you might be able to see if you're on YouTube. If you can't, or if you're just listening, you can also maybe hear it. It's just me, Mike Renner, today, because it is a draft preview. Yes, I know we are, 8 months away from the draft here. We're a ways away, but I know if you're an NFL fan, there's become like this confluence that if you're not a draft fan too, you're probably a fan of a really good team. Once the way the draft has grown into this spectacle, obviously great for my job security, but also it's become a year-round event where it's just kind of like fun to track these players as they go. And this class, especially this 2026 class, because after going through summer scouting, after watching these guys, I've never been more excited to track a quarterback class. I'm not saying it's going to be great. Like 2024 was unique, but 2024, a year out, or I guess at this time prior to it, you knew who the guys were, kind of. You knew Drake May, Caleb Williams. Those guys were going to be at the top of the class. You knew that going into the season. This year, you don't. This year is unique in that QB1 is so up in the air right now. It could be one of 7 guys. I think there are realistically 7 guys that have legitimate potential to be QB1 of this upcoming draft class. I don't know how many classes I've said that about, and like 7 guys where they're all kind of good right now. They're all kind of in the first round-ish mix right now. Now, of those 7, I bet you see a few of them come back to school. That's just the way of the world right now. But let's get into the guys, and then we'll discuss after that. We're going to do quarterback class today. We're going to do blue chip guys in the upcoming class, and then we're going to do a little preview of strong positions, weak positions, just to give you an overview of this 2026 NFL draft. But I'll start with 7 quarterbacks in order how I have them ranked right now. And again, I think they're all good. Like the ranking right now is more a formality of just how I kind of see them. And we'll get into it. So it's Arch Manning, the Texas quarterback, at 1. Garrett Nussmeier, the LSU quarterback, at 2. John Mateer, the Oklahoma transfer from Washington State, at 3. Cade Klubnik, the Clemson quarterback, at 4. Drew Aller, the Penn State quarterback, at 5. Fernando Mendoza, the Indiana quarterback, transferred from Cal, at 6. And then Lenore Sellers, the South Carolina quarterback, the one who reportedly turned down a big NIL money to stay at South Carolina. He checks in at number 7. But again, this ranking formality, don't focus so much on the rankings. I think the explanation for all these guys is a little bit more important. So we'll start with Arch Manning, where I've seen people be like, is Arch even that good? He's getting hyped up. Is it because of his last name? He's barely played, 108 career dropbacks, 101 last year. I watched the tape, 2 starts, Louisiana Monroe, Mississippi State, and I'm here to tell you he's that good. I wrote an article mid-season last year that Texas fans hated at the time. I think they are regretting that now. That said, after Quinn Ewers went down, Arch started those 2 games. Quinn came back. That was for the Georgia game. I was like, Arch should be starting the rest of the year. This is if you're Steve Sarkisian, this is your Trevor Lawrence moment. You remember Trevor Lawrence is a true freshman. Gosh, I'm blanking on the quarterback that went down that year or the quarterback that was starting that year. They bench him early on that season. Trevor Lawrence takes over to win the national title. I thought that was what this Texas team had the potential to do. Arch has high-end arm talent. His ability to attack down the football field, and he loves doing so. 11.1 average depth of target last year, very, very deep, was so much better than Quinn Ewers. His legs unlock so much more potential in the running game. I liken it to, he's a lot like the last generation of Mannings, Eli Payton, but then updated for today's game. He's like the Manning 2.0, like the software update to the old Manning, because he can run. Like the athleticism that he has is night and day, which shouldn't be surprising since his father, Cooper, was the wide receiver of the family. The only one who didn't play quarterback. He was a wide receiver. Arch got his athleticism and obviously the Manning ability at quarterback. It really is all there. Now, it's hard to say what it'll look like for a full season. He'll probably have some ups and downs. And I do bet he comes back to school just because, Peyton went 4 years, Eli went 5 years. But all that being said, what I saw was special. What I saw on the tape last year was special. And I think for him being only 19 years old when he did it, only just turned 20 over the course of this offseason, the guy is going to be the next in line whenever he declares. So next up on this list, LSU's Garrett Nussmeier. Another bloodlines, not quite the same name, panache, but his father, Doug, former NFL quarterback, current OC for the New Orleans Saints, which underratedly probably has had one of the best years of anyone on planet Earth. Guy wins a Super Bowl ring as a quarterback's coach for the Philadelphia Eagles, gets an upgrade to OC for the New Orleans Saints, and then gets to be right down the road from Baton Rouge to see his son become potentially a Heisman winner, potentially a top draft pick, and gets to go to all his games, like all his home games. They're right down the road. So very sick for him. Very cool year. But Garrett Nussmeier, kind of on the opposite end of the tool spectrum from Arch Manning. My comp from physically was Kirk Cousins, which is telling you about where we're talking about as an athlete. He's not a runner. He's not, in terms of arm talent, I don't need pre-Achilles Kirk Cousins. We'll give him that credit, but still not great, right? We're still not talking about a guy who's getting drafted purely based off physical ability. But when I watch him play the game of football, and it was only 1 year as a starter, obviously the guy he sat behind the 2 years prior, pretty darn good in Jane Daniels, so no shame there. 1 year as a starter, over 4,000 yards, and this LSU offense, like every week, it was on him. And he did not have the receivers that Jane Daniels did. He did not have, the running game that Jane Daniels did. Obviously, Jane Daniels, big factor of that, but it was week in and week out. They showed up. Garrett Nussmeier had to throw 40 passes, and they had to go for 300 yards, or LSU was probably losing games. So that pressure on him, to see him be able to consistently overcome that, his ability to throw into tight windows. I wrote an article about it, and the main takeaway that I had watching his tape was just the refinement, the advancement. He can survive as a pocket passer. He has the art of quarterbacking down in a way that no one else in this class has it, whether it's pocket movement, whether it's throwing guys open, whether it's throwing with anticipation, all those things he does so well. Now, he needs to clean up some mistakes, force some throws. He had some big boneheaded plays on tape last year. Those need to change, but he's a really high floor sort of quarterback. And in a class where we're talking about a lot of freak show athletes with very inconsistent tape, I put him at 2 because I know what I'm getting. I know I'm getting a competent NFL quarterback whenever he does declare, which will be this year. This is last year of eligibility. So next up on this list, John Mateer. This one I'm probably higher on than anyone else, and I'm happy to be going out on a limb for him because his physical tools are off the charts, this guy. So I talked about, Garrett Nussmeier, the guy he started behind, or the guy he sat behind was pretty darn good. The guy that John Mateer sat behind the 2 years prior to becoming the starter at Washington State last year, also pretty good in Cam Ward. And I think there's a good shot that Washington State at one point on the roster had 2 number 1 overall picks. I think this guy's real deal potential to make that leap, to be the transfer who goes to a new spot. He's at Oklahoma this year and makes the leap into stardom. He has one of the best pairings I think I've ever seen of quick release and arm strength. His arm talent is, for my money, the best in this draft class. The guy can spin it any level of the field, and it looks like Uncle Rico throwing out there. There's no cock to the throwing motion. It just comes from the hip, and it comes out like a laser. So real deal arm talent. He ran for over 1,000 yards last year. He's a heck of an athlete. He's like a tuned up version of Sam Howell. And now that might not excite you too much, and that might actually scare you a little bit, but he's a better athlete with similar size. He's 6'1", 224, a little bit better of an athlete, a little bit better of an arm, and it's just a little bit quicker in terms of the processing and ability to get to his reads. Like his agility and footwork in the pocket is outstanding. There just was a lot of inconsistency on tape last year, but why I'm so high and why he's 3 on this list is his final 3 games. And yeah, the competition wasn't great. It was New Mexico, Oregon State, Wyoming. The guy was lights out in those 3 games. You go flip on the tape of those 3 games. There are high-end throws all over the place. There's getting to second and third read in a way he didn't early on. And I'm very excited now at Oklahoma because I believe they brought over his offensive coordinator from last year. So same offense, second year in that offense, or I guess second year starting in that offense, going to Oklahoma where he'll have a lot better offensive line, a lot better receiving talent. outside of Kyle Williams, my boy. But I think John Mateer makes the leap, and he's getting talked about in a much higher light going forward here. All right, rolling through the last 4 here of this quarterback class. So Arch Manning, Garrett Nussmeier, John Mateer, and then Cade Klubnik here comes in at number 4. He reminds me a lot of J.J. McCarthy, and the good and the bad. The good in that he's just this loose athlete, can move in the pocket, twitchy mover, any level of the football field, like has just the complete package of that you want in terms of athleticism and arm talent at the position. Like not a lot of holes physically to his game. Now, the other similarity to McCarthy is the size, 6'2", just a shade over 200, needs to get a little bit bigger to handle the rigors of the NFL game. Obviously, McCarthy did. Hopefully, Cade Klubnik will. But also, guy throws a lot of lasers. His touch needs a little improvement. Now, I think he throws better touch than McCarthy did at Michigan, but that's one of the biggest areas for improvement for him. But he's a guy who he kind of took his lumps, kind of followed the Bo Nix path without transferring, where he was a freshman starter, high-end recruit, sophomore starter, took his lumps, was not good as a sophomore. Junior year, you saw big-time development, got a lot better. His game against Texas in the playoff was impressive stuff. I thought he played a heck of a game there against one of the best defenses in football. A lot of big-time throws on that tape. PFF had him charted with 5. So Cade Klubnik, if he takes one more leap to his profile, this is a first-rounder. But I thought he was just the cleanest kind of the guys we're going to talk about from here on down, so that's why I put him at 4. Drew Aller's next at 5. I don't need to tell you anything you probably don't already know about Drew Aller. The size, 6'5", 240, the move, the footwork in the pocket. He's such a twitchy mover for a guy that size. The arm is massive. He just bouts of it consistency with his accuracy, some questionable decision-making. His consistency with his technique too. He throws more wobblers than anyone on this list. That's just something that I hate seeing from any prospect. It means inconsistent mechanics. It means inconsistent sequencing at the quarterback position. If you're throwing non-spirals and you're really not flicking, you're not getting that wrist snap right at the end. So if that improves this year, this guy has another guy, number 1 overall pick potential, truly. But it was not, I would not have drafted him in the top 50 based off his tape last year. I just wouldn't have. Too big of a project. But he's got better every single year, from his freshman year, sophomore year, junior year. The guy's put in the work. So if he continues, can be in that conversation. But right now, he's quite a bit outside of it, in my opinion. Fernando Mendoza, Indiana, up next. Big arm, tall, 6'5", 225. I love the way he held his head above water at California when it would have been really easy for this guy to have some games where he just had duds. It really would have. This offensive line was trash. He had some weapons, but his best weapon's like a tight end. Anytime your best weapon's tight end at the collegiate level, you're probably in trouble. But last season, 300-yard games, averaged, over 270 yards a game through the air for a Cal team that, again, they haven't had an offensive player drafted since 2017. This is not a team that's at a talent advantage week in and week out, even when you're playing teams like, UC Davis and Wake Forest, who are on their schedule. So for him to do what he did, very impressed with. He's more of like, my evaluation on him is like wait and see, because he was so intriguing for what he did last year, but it really isn't going to mean anything compared to what his Indiana tape is going to be this year, because it's going to be better competition. It's going to be, competition that he's more on par with in terms of the talent that he has around him. And I just thought there were things to his game that I wanted to see better, mainly pocket awareness. Yes, he gets the ball in his hands quickly, 2.56 average time to throw, but he missed blitzers. He missed defenders in the pocket, took some big hits on tape, and took some bad sacks when he didn't have to. So I want to see that improve. But Fernando Mendoza, definitely in that first round mix. And the last guy of this top 7. And I could be brief with Sellers, because my take on him is Lenore Sellers, South Carolina quarterback, is that it's just, he's too far away based off of last year's tape. He has not played a ton of football. That was his first year as a starter, 381 dropbacks. I worry if he comes out this year, he will get drafted highly. He has a cannon for an arm. He's 6'3", 240. He, at that size, I mean, he's like Anthony Richardson. He has that arm strength. He has freakish rushing ability for that size. And compared to Richardson, he's even more, I think he's even a little tougher to bring down because he has a little bit more lateral agility to his game. Richardson with straight line explosiveness. Sellers like makes guys miss consistently. Guys fall off of him on tape. And he was another young guy, only 19 years old, only turned 20 recently this offseason. So I don't want him to go down the Trey Lance, Anthony Richardson path. It's intriguing. He'll be, if he comes out, probably drafted in that range because he is so gifted as a physical freak. But we've seen what happens to those guys when they don't get the reps. And so I want this guy just selfishly. And I think from the advice he's gotten, like I said, he had big NIL offers, $8 million NIL offers, turned him down, stay at South Carolina. He has people in his corner that are looking out for what's best for him long-term. Because of that, I just hope he stays in college and develops at that level until he's ready for the NFL. Because last year I just saw he just wasn't quite ready as a pure pocket passer. It just, in terms of timing, in terms of accuracy, I mean, he had more turnover-worthy plays than big-time plays last season. There are things that I want to see improve a lot, and I want to see him master at the collegiate level before he makes that leap. But again, this guy's right up there with anyone else that could go number one overall. So that's why this is a crazy class at the quarterback position. It's, like I said, the most I've looked forward to a quarterback group ever at this point in time scouting the upcoming class, just because there is so much to deal with, so many guys who could make a big leap, but just at this point in time, none really have. So will be interesting to track as we go forward. All right, we take a quick break. After that, we're going to get to the blue chip prospects. The guys I already am pegging and saying, yeah, that's going to be top 10 pick, top player at their position, special sort of prospect. Coming up right after this.
You can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus. So even if you can't count on accurate expiration dates,
that is a rookie mistake,
or people appreciating your fashion sense,
Jim, the crowd is not on board here.
You can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS, streaming on Paramount Plus.
Glad we wear our good jerseys.
Yeah. All right, how I see this upcoming 2026 class right now, I think it's top heavy at the moment. I struggled rounding out my top 50 that drops on CBS Sports tomorrow, Thursday. But I did not struggle placing some of these guys. Some of these guys, I watched their tape, and I was like, yeah, that guy's just special. 5 guys I have as blue chip prospects at this point in time. And I'm being a little generous maybe for one of these guys, but the rest, not being generous. First one's Peter Woods, the Clemson defensive tackle. If you've seen clips of this guy or watched his tape, he is a special mover for 6'3", 315. So much so that he played off the edge a quarter of his snaps last year. The guy was playing defensive end for Clemson. Now, I hate watching Clemson defensive linemen. Dabo, what he does to their defensive linemen there, I think is criminal. They just don't play enough. This guy is unbelievable. And he played 395 snaps last year. Wasn't hurt, wasn't banged up. Just that's their rotation. I not going to criticize, obviously, guys' national championship to his name, but I feel like they have not developed defensive line talent the way they should have since, obviously, it was the 2019 draft, the Dexter Lawrence, Christian Wilkins, Cleveland Ferrell, who was the highest draft of them all somehow. But Peter Woods will be a top 5 pick. Top 10 pick at worst. I mean, if he has Jalen Carter-esque off field, he's still a top 10 pick. That's like the caliber of DT we're talking about here. Guy is just built like a brick shithouse, and whether it's run game, pass game, he is the impact down in, down out, special sort of prospect. Next one, Caleb Downs, Ohio State safety, formerly of Alabama. It's where he started his career. Freshman starter for Nick Saban at safety. Obviously, freshman DB starter for Nick Saban. Your ears are going to perk up. And Caleb Downs, I mean, he's that guy. He is kind of that know it when you see it level of athleticism. I've likened it to You know, the old Madden games, like Madden 2003, before they changed the Madden engine to this dumb action-based engine that they have now, where it's like, don't even get me started. But when it used to just be like the guys could turn correctly, how people actually turn in real life, but they kind of all moved like high-end athletes. Like no one had stiffness. They could all like really were fluid with how they turned, and no one lost speed when they cut. That's how Caleb Downs moves. He moves like a safety in Madden 2003, where he's running one way and then he has to adjust. And it looks like he hasn't even turned, hasn't even cut. The guy doesn't lose speed. He is just that caliber of athlete that's perfect at safety position specifically, where you're always having to manipulate space. You're always having to go from 10 yards away to 0 yards away as quickly as possible without, being caught out of position while being able to adjust to a moving target. He's got that, and his instincts are great. There's really no holes to his game. He's not Kyle Hamilton. He's not a true physical freak. Like he's not going to break 4.4 in the 40. He's only 6', 205. But everything else about this guy's game, massive fan of. He's a blue chip safety prospect. Next one on this list, Utah offensive tackle Spencer Fano, with the caveat that this is at guard. He's a blue chip guard prospect because 32 3/8, I believe, is what his arms measured in at last spring. And I know you're probably just sick and tired of arm length conversation. I don't love it either. But this guy's going to be in the Will Campbell bucket of smaller arms than normal. But if you put this guy at guard, he had the best run blocking tape I've seen as a sophomore offensive lineman in college football since Penei Sewell. That's the caliber of how good his tape was already as a true sophomore, his first year as a starter. The guy is high-end agility, high-end explosiveness. He's slighter framed, obviously 6'5", 302, zone fit, outside zone. This guy is going to be special in that sort of scheme. I mean, with the way guards going in the NFL, how much they're getting paid, I'd be happy as heck to just take him and say I got a Pro Bowl to all-pro caliber guard. But I could see playing him a tackle as well. Either way, blue chip sort of prospect in my mind. Next one up, and this is the one that I think I was a little generous to, but I just love the way the guy moves. But you'll see why I was being a little generous after I go through his profile. Jermod McCoy, cornerback, Tennessee, 6', 309, long arms, started his career at Oregon State, 1 year there, transferred to Tennessee last season, 4 picks, 6 pass breakups, 50% completion percentage allowed. What I love about him, not only is he physical, as you see there, laying a boom on tape against Alabama, he's so smooth. I mean, this is one of the best functional athletes I've seen since like Derek Stingley coming out at corner, where there's just a gracefulness and an ease to the way he moves. He attacks the ball well in the air, obviously the 4 picks. But why I say I'm being generous here is he tore his ACL in January. He not playing, not during football season. It was in off-season workouts. Not good, obviously. No timeline yet as to when for sure he's going to be coming back. But I put him in the Antonio Cromartie level. If you'll remember, Antonio Cromartie at Florida State missed his last year with torn ACL. Still got drafted in the first round. I put him at that level of prospect where it's like, yeah, he doesn't have to play down. You run at your pro day and do workouts there. That's all I need to know, and I'll draft you in the first round. That's how good of a prospect he is already. And the last one, had to save the best for last. Jeremiah Love, Notre Dame running back. Ashton Genty, elite prospect. Jeremiah Love, not quite to that level yet in my eyes, but he's a different cat, man. 6', 214, average 6.9 yards per attempt, 17 touchdowns on 162 carries. Means over 10% of his carries ended in the end zone because, well, he is electric. He had a bag drill. He had a running back bag drill this fall camp go viral because of just his footwork is unbelievable for a back that's not, a back who's 5'6" is going to have good footwork. He is going to be able to cut and be agile in a way that's, unique to running backs who are 5'6" just because of low center of gravity. Backs that are 6 foot do not move like Jeremiah Love does, with long arms, He's got a good stiff arm. He can shake in the hole. And then he's got real deal track speed. He had that 98-yarder against Indiana in the playoffs. He had that ridiculous run against Penn State in the playoffs where he, on a bum ankle, broke through, or was a bum knee, broke through like 3 different tackles on the way to the end zone. He is going to be a first-round running back. Just depends on how high at this point. And I'll throw 4 guys out. Those are your blue chippers. Peter Woods, DT, Clemson, Caleb Downs, safety, Ohio State, Spencer Fano, O-line, Utah, Jermod McCoy, cornerback, Tennessee, and Jeremiah Love, running back, Notre Dame. I got 4 more guys that I think are close. I think we could be talking about this point in time next April as blue chip prospects. They are Connor Lew, center, Auburn. Some of the most complete tape I've seen from a sophomore center that I can remember. He looks, I haven't actually done enough background information on him. He looks like the kind of guy, the offensive line prospect who's like dad was an offensive lineman somewhere. That's what this guy's tape looks like. He's so polished. And unlike, Tyler Linderbaum, who had really good sophomore tape, this guy's already play strength is NFL caliber. You don't need much more for Connor Lew to be an NFL center, but obviously we're going to see what his next step is. He reminds me a lot play style wise, like a Frank Ragnow, where he's not massive, but man, he's strong for his size. Very excited to see how he continues to develop. I think we could be talking about him as a top 20 pick when it's all said and done at the center position. Keldrick Falk, his teammate at Auburn there, also very close just because he is a specimen. 6'6", 290, edge rusher, 45 pressures last year as a sophomore, basically just not knowing what the heck he was doing out there. It reminds me so much of Tyree Wilson, but I think already figured it out in a way Tyree Wilson didn't until like his redshirt senior year. So Keldrick Falk, not a lot in the way of technique, but a lot of effort and freakish athletic tools. I'll throw Anthony Hill, the Texas linebacker, in there. We'll get to some of the deep position groups in the next segment, but linebacker is one of them. He's at the top of it for me. He had 6'3", 237. I just love the way he moves. I keep talking about the way these guys move, and it's so important on the defense side of the ball specifically, is fluidity. When I watch Anthony Hill run in space, it's just like an athlete's moves. It's the kind of athlete that if you wanted to play him at defensive end, he could. If you wanted to play him at tight end, he could. He had a pick 6 early on in the season where, he looked like a running back after the catch. Those are the guys I love. And that, if I'm drafting highly, I want to see that from. Last year, 4 forced fumbles as well, and he goes for it. He goes for rips. He goes for the peanut punch. He is attempting to force fumbles, Derek Johnson-esque. I think Derek Johnson forced like double-digit fumbles his last year at Texas. This guy, he could be a first-round pick like Derek Johnson. The last one, Kenyon Sadiq, the Oregon tight end. Another good tight end class. I wonder if that's going to be like a thing now, that we're just tight end classes are going to start stacking. We're going to see an influx of talent. But Kenyon Sadiq, man, what an athlete. 6'3", 245, Oregon tight end, sat behind Terrence Ferguson, kind of, but he still played a lot because he's, dude, look at how diced up he is for 245 pounds. The guy is a special mover. 25 catches, 307 yards last year. On those 25 catches, he broke 10 tackles after the catch. I can't wait to see what he does in a full-time role. And even like being undersized, he blocks like an animal. I have no questions about what he's going to do as a run blocker in the NFL. Get ready for him to be in the first-round conversation next spring. All right, those are your blue chippers. We're going to take a quick break. After that, we're getting to the best and worst position groups to tie a bow on this 2026 NFL Draft Preview.
Here we go. The 2025 CBS Sports NFL schedule is here. 18 glorious Sundays.
He's got his receiver touchdown.
Filled with rematches.
Oh, the play of the year.
And rivalries.
Touchdown, Bengals.
Plus, plenty of superstar showdowns. And an epic matchup between the Chiefs and Cowboys on Thanksgiving. Clear your Sundays beginning September 7th for the NFL on CBS and Paramount+.
All right, best position groups. Obviously, the aforementioned quarterback class, big fan of. That's firmly in the best position groups ranking here. Offensive tackles, I think, is going to be a sick class, too. Outside of the aforementioned Spencer Fano, his teammate there, Caleb Lomu, I think is going to be a first-round sort of prospect. Alabama's Caden Proctor, number 2 on the Bruce Feldman Freaks list. He's going to be a first-rounder. Francis Maui-Goa, the offensive tackle, right tackle for Miami, who started since his freshman year. I think he's going to be a first rounder. I'll also throw in Isaiah World, the Nevada transfer to Oregon, Trevor Gooseby, Texas offensive tackle, who came in for Kelvin Banks and Cameron Williams at times last year. And then Xavier Chaplin, the Virginia Tech transfer to Auburn. Would not surprise me if all the guys I just mentioned end up first rounders. It's a very good offensive tackle class. Defensive end, I mean, I think it just seems like every year defensive end's deep. I can't remember last time we were talking about like a good defensive end class, but this one I like because we got some size. There are like a lot of 260, 270 pounders. Keldrick Falk, TJ Parker, Reuben Bain, LT Overton, all those guys mentioned, at least 265 they're listed at. And all those guys firmly in the first round conversation right now. So there is a lot of beef to be had in this defensive end class. Linebacker class I like. The top three at the moment for most people are going to be Sonny Styles, or Anthony Hill, who I mentioned from Texas, Sonny Styles from Ohio State, and then CJ Allen from Georgia. All three of those guys, first round sort of potential. I don't know if they end up there, but definitely first 2 round sort of linebacker prospects at this point in time. And the last group that I really like, tight end. Obviously, Kenyon Sadiq's just a monster. And then after him, it's a lot of 245-pound and under guys, but they're all athletic as heck. Max Clara from Ohio State, Purdue transfer to Ohio State, moves so easily. Maybe not going to test off the charts, but the guy is such a talented receiver. I like Justin Jolie from NC State. He's kind of my call for a guy that's going to move up draft boards the more he plays. He showed up at college 215 pounds. Now he's 251, completely transformed his body, still an athletic, moves like a wide receiver at the tight end position. So tight end is going to be a good class. On the flip side of things, worst position groups, it's kind of crazy because they have blue chip prospects, but cornerback and defensive tackle, I don't like at this point in time. Defensive tackle specifically. After Peter Woods, I don't have the next guy checks in right at the back end of my top 50 in Kristen Miller. And even that's like, I'm kind of betting on traits there. Caleb Banks from Florida is like this real high-end trait sort of guy. He's 6'6", 320, explosive off the ball, but runs super hot and cold. And he's going to be 24 years old as a rookie. There's just not a lot of guys. I'm like, yeah, he's an NFL player right now. So it's a very weak defensive tackle class. And then cornerback, you have the aforementioned Jermon McCoy. You have Avion Terrell, AJ Terrell's brother, who's a distinctly different type of corner. He's shorter, speedier, man mirror kind of guy compared to AJ Terrell's like long press sort of body type. But he's a first round talent. That guy, I would bet good money goes in the first round when it's all said and done. After that, though, CB3 didn't even make my top 50. That is it. Like that is the cornerback class. I did not love this cornerback class after those two whatsoever. So those two positions specifically, I was like, ooh, I was really scraping the bottom of the barrel to find guys that I would take in the top 50. Just not going to be loaded classes. Maybe some guys come out of nowhere. Maybe we see some ascendances, but I think it's safe to say those aren't going to be the position groups. If you need, probably looking more towards free agency. There you have it. Your 2026 NFL draft mini preview. Woo! I love that. Getting to talk a little draft in August. Can you beat it? I don't think you can. All right, we're going to be back on Monday recapping all 3 weeks of the preseason, giving some top performers. I think we're going to do an all preseason team is what's on the docket for Monday. Until then, thanks for tuning in and keep pushing.